today.
We're continuing our conversation about President Obama using the N-word to make a point about racism in America. It sparked a conversation on Twitter about if it's ever okay to use the word. Back with me right now, recording artist Bun B, along with CNN political commentator Tara Setmayer and Sirius XM talk show host Pete Dominic. Pete, I want to talk to you first and foremost. You brought up a really interesting point of how there's so much focus right now in the media, including our network, on President Obama using the N-word and not so much about the message behind what he was trying to say, which I think is what's being lost in translation. Do you think had he said N-word instead of actually using the racial slur, we would be actually having this conversation now?
Perhaps. I don't know. Whatever's going to get people to watch, whatever's going to get people to click. But let's do what you just said right now and talk about what's going wrong in America because of all of these issues that we've had for so long and potentially what's going right. The president uses the word. He's allowed to use the word. The words surrounding the word are what matters. He's talking about discrimination. He's talking about systemic institutional racism. He's talking about issues like the fact that white graduates of college and black graduates of college are still not equal. He's talking about all of the issues plaguing the black community within that conversation on the top 5 most popular podcasts in the world. It's very important that he goes in a venue like that, but it's more important that he talks about these issues, not that word.
Sarah, you are heavily in disagreement with President Obama using the word during the podcast, which I have to also admit. You said, what is he doing on a show like that? What is he doing on a podcast like that? But this is our modern day president. Let's be real about President Obama for a minute. He has not been able to tackle racism as he's been able to in light of the recent effects and the recent things that have happened in Charleston now. And now that he's using those words to describe his anger and wanting to set a point in his presidency now that things have to be done. Aren't you happy that this conversation is being sparked up more so than him using the N-word? It's about the mission and what he's trying to do before his presidency is over.
Well, I think it's convenient that he could talk about it now. He's president of the United States. He could have chosen to talk about this issue at any point during his presidency. But it was too politically risky for him to do that before because he actually had to get reelected. And so, to start to gin up, some of these more controversial racial issues prior to getting reelected, and he ran on being someone that was supposed to, transcend race, it wasn't politically expedient for him to do it. So now he's in the denouement of his presidency. He doesn't care. He's going to say whatever he feels like. He doesn't care what the consequences are. And no, yes, he is a modern president, and the way that we communicate is changing. But I also don't think that you should diminish the office of the presidency by giving the time of the president to certain venues. Like when he allowed bloggers to come into the White House, and a blogger, Flozell Green, who was swimming around in a milk bath of cereal, like someone like that, I'm sorry, good for you for the entertainment value, but that is not where the president of the United States should be spending his time talking to people on important issues. So yeah, I do take issue with where he chooses to have these kinds of. It's a fluff interview where he'll have no pushback whatsoever, and it's politically expedient for him to do it now because he has no consequences whatsoever.
Bun B, is it ever okay to use the word, whether it's an ER or an A at the end of it? Yes or no? Yes.
It depends on the person and it depends on the conversation. I mean, I find it funny that we're criticizing the president for being on a podcast when people like Nixon were on laughing. I mean, what are we really talking about here? As Pete was saying, let's talk about the conversation that they were really having, that Mark and the president were really having about systemic issues in this country that stem from racism, quite frankly. And, let's not beat around the bush. It's hard for people to hear the word. It's hard for people to hear people use the word. But we've got to move past that. We've got to have real conversations about not just the N-word, but all forms of derogatory words that demean demean people. I mean, we've just got to have a conversation about it and being scared, quite frankly, to say these words and in conversation, right? Not using it against someone to try to demean them or hold them back or belittle them, but just having a conversation and using these words. If we're scared to use the words, then we're really scared to have the conversation.
But Bun B, and I would love to continue this conversation. Tara Bun B, I'm so sorry. Pete, guys, I'm so sorry. I would love to continue this conversation. I invite all of you guys back. Right now, I have to go to commercial break. We will be right back with more HLN.